I love it when you find kind of a weird mechanic and then it works for a subclass, let's say, and they kind of just click like puzzle pieces. Now, I'm not saying that it's always going to be the best, but sometimes it just feels like they were meant for each other. This is one of those builds, and on top of it, we get a pretty cool theme. This is the Chainmaster. The Chainmaster is completely inspired by the Chain Devil, who uses chains as their main primary weapon and has a devilish background. Now, despite that devilish background, we are going to be variant human. However, I like the idea of making us look like a tiefling and maybe have some sort of story of why we can't see in the dark the way other devils can, and have it be part of this character's journey. Maybe we're a devil that is trying to no longer be a devil, something along those lines. But you guys are way better at that storytelling stuff than I am, so I would love to hear your guys' suggestions for what I should do with this story in the comments down below. But without further ado, like I said, we are variant human. We're going to be taking 1 level in fighter, and the rest are going into swords bard. As for our stats, we want decent breakpoints in dexterity and constitution, even if we have to sacrifice a bit of charisma. But as far as our investments are going throughout this character's career, we're going to be investing into charisma first. Now, since we're a variant human, we come with a feat, and we are going to be taking the Dual Wielder feat. The reason for that is we want to be dual wielding whips. How can we call ourselves a chain master if we're not dual wielding chains? Of course, we're going to make these our chains and just reflavor whips to be chains. Hopefully your DM doesn't get too hung up on that. I doubt they will. And if they do, send them over to talk to me. I'll talk them into it. So by going into fighter at level 1, we're going to get constitution saves, which are going to be a big deal because we may be concentrating in near melee combat. We're going to pick up our martial weapons here, which allows us to use the whips. Now, by going fighter, we increase our tankiness. We get this through second wind, as well as the defensive fighting style. At level 2 and onwards, we are a swords bar. And admittedly, we're kind of lost in the woods up until we get our subclass. So levels 2 and 3 might be a little bit awkward. Some of the first level spells stand out as awesome. You have Dissonant Whispers, which is kind of like a pseudo damaging disengage, can be quite good. Of course, spells like Healing Word and Silvery Bards are staples for bards, and I particularly like Featherfall. I think there's just a lot of fun things you can do with Featherfall, and someone on your team probably should have it, and why not be you? Now, as we get our inspiration, we should be weaving it into our teammates as best as possible. At this point, our bonus action whip attack is only doing a d4 with none of our dexterity modifier added to it, so we're really not sacrificing much to get a high value bardic inspiration off. Now, once we hit level 4, we get our subclass, and all of that changes. Now we get the dual wielding fighting style, so our bonus action attack is more valuable. And what's really cool is that now our bardic inspirations don't take a bonus action until we can do our attack, bonus action attack, and do one of our blade flourishes, the defensive being the clear winner of the strongest, except for very niche situations you might want to push someone. And what I like about it is normally when you weigh a bardic inspiration against a blade flourish, bardic inspirations tend to win. But when we do the same calculation of a bardic inspiration versus a blade flourish less a bonus action attack, it gets a little bit more questionable. So I like how dual wielding fits the swords bard. On top of that, the swords bard also gives us 10 feet of extra movement speed, which suggests we want to be more of a hit and runner. We want to get in there, hit them, and be able to leave. And by having whips, we enable ourselves to do that. So again, it's fitting like a glove. Usually you wouldn't be looking at dual wielding whips as something efficient, but with the swords bard, even though I wouldn't say it's the optimal swords bard, it seems to fit the flavor they were going for better than other combat styles, which I really enjoy. As for our second level spells, I like heat metal. It fits the flavor perfectly, and if your DM is really cool, he'll let you use heat metal on your whips and add some fire damage to it, but it does fire damage back to you. Again, we can go to the storytelling of why this chain devil is getting burned by their own chains. There's some fun stuff there, I guarantee it. Another one to mention is kinetic jaunt. It just kind of acts as our disengage, but we can still get an attack in with it and gives us some extra movement speed on top. As I alluded to before, once we get our ASIs, we're going to want to put them into charisma. If we have an odd charisma, we can consider taking a half feat. The Fey Touched is a clear standout when it comes to bards because that Misty Step is a big deal for them, so we'll probably pick that up here. Level 6 is a big level for us. Our bardic inspirations improve, and we get to use them on short rests as well, so we get way more throughout the day. Now, a D8 bardic inspiration being put toward the defensive flourish is basically the shield spell, and you get to use it several times a day, so your tankiness goes way up on top of being a hit and runner, so you're just far less likely to die. As for our third level spells, there's not much to talk about. You have broken third level spells, things like Hypnotic Pattern or Fear. You can use those or you can try and get more creative, totally up to you. Level 7, we're gonna get our multi-attack, and we can do 3 attacks now, all the same quality as any other ones, but we're also reaching the levels where we're probably gonna wanna be casting more spells. We have enough room to be casting our third level fight winning spell and then missing in Dissonant Whispers throughout. So we're still a bard, but we do have the option on those off turns. Instead of just doing a low damage cantrip, we can actually go for 3 attacks, which the quality of 3 attacks over what 2d4 is just way better. This is the trend for us. We're gonna just continue doing this. We're gonna become more castery as we advance, but I'm gonna continue taking spells, especially with my magical secrets, that allow us to still feel martial. Things like Shadow of Moil, Tensor's Transformation, and Spirit Shroud are spells I'm going to be looking at that let us keep having fun being a Bard Marshal. Is this the most optimal build ever? No, but I do think it kind of fits the Swords Bard like a glove, and I really like that. We're getting the most flavor out of it, we're juicing it, and I think that's awesome. As for our weaknesses, they're honestly pretty far and few between. Normally, Bard's main weakness is early game defense, which we take care of with that first level dip into Fighter. There's a good chance that we're going to want to take Resilient Wisdom, because we could say one of our weaknesses is our Wisdom saves. But as for mobs, single targets, different ranges, a lot of things a lot of characters struggle with, we're golden. If you're interested in supporting the channel and getting some awesome benefits at the same time, consider checking out our Patreon. But with that, my friends, I hope you have yourselves an incredible day, and I'll catch you on the next one. Later.